Let's go. Call the meeting to order. This Wilmington City Council pre-agenda. We have C1 is approval of the minutes. C2, oh, I'm sorry, roll call. Do I have to have a roll call? Thank you. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, are you here? Councilman Roundabout, are you here? Councilmember Anderson, are you here? Councilmember Barnett, are you here? Councilmember Spears, are you here?
He's trying to get connected, Mr. Mayor.
Yes. Councilmember Waddell, are you here? The chair is here. It's here and accounted for. C2 is a resolution approving changes to Policy 202, General Classification and Compensation, and Policy 212, Paid Leave for the City of Wilmington. Yes, sir.
Of how that the paid leave attaches to, I forget the other, all the terminology escapes me a little bit too. Just an example, somebody goes 2 days over, it goes over here.
Currently, you are allocated so many vacation days per year. You must take at least 2 weeks of those vacation before any additional vacation you earn during the year will roll over into your sick leave.
Okay, is sick leave endless? I mean, your sick leave is another stack of time, right?
You got annual leave and you got sick leave.
Okay, well, I'm saying, does sick leave have a limitation to it?
It does not have a limitation to it because we no longer pay for sick leave, but it can accumulate in an account which will be credited towards your retirement.
So you can now, if you take less vacation, you can retire earlier.
Under the proposal, you no longer have to take 2 weeks of vacation every year before it rolls over into retirement. Anything you have that's over the maximum vacation, and there are varied maximums, anything that's over the maximum vacation rolls into your retirement.
So as some folks are with the city longer, their vacation goes out to 3-4 weeks?
It can go out a very long time. We even allow folks to transfer sick leave in and use it towards credit on their retirement. They do not get to use it, generally speaking, as sick leave, but it does go as credit towards their retirement.
Okay.
Okay, C3 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an amendment to the contract with T.S. Jewell LLC of Wilmington, North Carolina for roll-up door maintenance and repairs in the amount of $30,000. Public hearings. PH1 is an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city to rezone property containing 23.33 acres of land located at 3818 Carolina Beach Road and 3930 Independence Boulevard from R15 moderate density single dwelling district to MD 17CD high density multi-dwelling residential conditional district for a 257 unit residential development. This is continued from our August 1st meeting. Yes, sir.
Chambers will answer your question.
Ryan, you may be able to answer it from there. On the right, as I read it, I think there's an A on it. It's the entrance at off Independence. That's supposed to be, I guess, right in, right out. Follow me?
Yes, sir.
Are they constructing a berm there? You know, how do you prevent a left turn out of there?
I don't think that's been determined yet. It could either be a raised median, or it could be the paddles you see. That'll come out of a final design.
So that'll just be something they work out between you and the city.
Typically, you'll have like a concrete pork chop that forces traffic one way or the other. Some people can just go out and do what you're saying. So that hasn't been determined, but there are a couple of methods they can use to make sure that doesn't happen, or at least minimize it from happening.
But the planning department's the key master there. Y'all will determine, you will tell them we're going to have something there.
It will be engineering that will make that determination.
Okay. The city of Wilmington.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? PH2 is an ordinance amending the official zoning maps of the city to rezone property containing 0.69 of an acre of land located 111 and 113 Avondale Avenue from R10 Medium Density Single Dwelling District to R5 CD Medium Density Mixed Residential Conditional District for a 4-lot residential subdivision for a total of 4 units. PH3 is an ordinance amending the official zoning maps of the city to rezone property containing 3.11 acres of land located at 610, 614, 618, and 622 South Kerr Avenue from R10 Medium Density Dwelling, Single Dwelling District to MD17 CD High Density Multi-Dwelling Residential Conditional District for residential development consisting of 48 two-bedroom multi-dwelling units and 1 single-family residential unit. PH4 is an ordinance for the closure of a portion of Willard Street, a 66-foot wide unimproved right-of-way located west of South Front Street to its terminus with a total length of approximately 330 feet consisting of plus or minus 0.51 acres of land. And then PH5 is an ordinance for the closure of a portion of Martin Street, a 66-foot wide unimproved right-of-way located west of South Front Street to its terminus with a total length of approximately 320 feet consisting of plus or minus 0.47 acres of land. Ordinances 01 is an ordinance expanding the residential parking program and adding new parking time limits on the 300 block of South Front Street. And then resolutions, R1 is resolution authorizing the filing of condemnation actions for acquisition of right-of-way and easements for the Pine Grove North Intersection Improvement Project. And this was funded by the 2014 Transportation Bond. And then R2 is a resolution authorizing the sealed bid sale of 115 North 3rd Street. And that seems to be it.
Mr. Mayor, if you will indulge us, we know it's going to be a long day for you, but we have one presentation we'd like to do for you this morning. We have an update that shows the models that were used in making decisions about the Independence Boulevard and River Road intersection improvements. This is the traffic signal versus the roundabout. You had expressed interest in wanting to see this as soon as possible, so we wanted to get it to you. Denise Freund will do the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Thank you for inviting us to provide you with some more information about the recommended improvements for the Independence Boulevard and River Road intersection. With me today, I have City Traffic Engineer Dennis Volkanowitz, as well as Angela Berry with Meiker Baker Engineering, who performed the traffic impact analysis for the city. Is it just the down arrow? There you go, okay. So today I'm going to go into a little bit of regional traffic patterns in the area, go over the 2 traffic studies that were completed by different traffic engineers for the intersection improvements, review the conceptual design of the roundabout, and go into some of the roundabout safety and educational materials that are out there and available. So first up, I want to talk about a traffic analysis that the WMPO recently completed in the River Lights, River Road area. There's been a lot of, I would say, community concern about the amount of traffic that's being generated on the city's roads. We thought it was important to understand where some of the traffic is coming from. We have a lot of folks that don't live in the city that use city streets, Pender County, Brunswick County, and New Hanover County. So in December of 2022, WMPO counted traffic counts simultaneously at 4 different locations along River Road between Saunders Road and Independence Boulevard. They counted for 3 consecutive days, and then they looked at the traffic distribution along that corridor. And what they found is that in the AM and in the PM, which is summarized in these graphics and in the next one down, the next slide down shows the PM peak. And what we found is that approximately 70 to 75% of the traffic that's coming along the River Road corridor onto Independence is coming from New Hanover County south of the city limits. 20 to 25% of the traffic is coming from River Lights. So the majority of the traffic that's coming north on River Lights, or on River Road through the River Lights community, is New Hanover County traffic. The next thing that we did was we engaged Michael Baker to complete several different studies. In addition to looking at the traffic, we were doing a pavement condition analysis. We were looking at the condition of the existing retaining walls in the corridor, and then also looking at what improvements may work in the future at the River Road and Independence Boulevard corridor. They completed that study in August of 2022 based on traffic counts completed in June of 2021 and February of 2022. And they included the future build-out of river lights. It included known developments at the time of the study along both River Road and Independence Boulevard, and it also included a growth rate to get to 2045 traffic volumes. And when we looked at the analysis, we looked at a 4-lane configuration for Independence Boulevard, which included a landscape median, as well as sidewalk on the south side and a multi-use path on the north side. We looked at River Road as a 2-lane road based on the current traffic volumes. The trigger for going from a 2-lane to a 4-lane facility is about 16,000 vehicles per day. Independence Boulevard is currently at 13,000, so it's nearing that.
Can I ask, when you're talking about a 2-lane river road, what part of River Road? South of the river lights?
South of Independence Boulevard through River Lights.
Okay, where we already have the right-of-way to do the extra 2 lanes,
Yeah, yes.
once it gets into River Lights?
Once it gets into River Lights. But the analysis assumed that River Road was still going to be a 2-lane road and that Independence Boulevard would be widened to 4 lanes.
Okay.
And that's because the traffic volumes indicate that Independence Boulevard will be widened before River Lights does based on the traffic counts.
Does that also include the bridge right there just barely south of Independence?
Right.
Being
It's
staying 2 lanes?
a 2-lane bridge in the analysis that we did. And the reason is that Independence Boulevard is at 13,000 ADT. 16,000 is the trigger that takes that to a 4-lane section. River Road right now is at about 8,000 vehicles per day. So it's about half of the capacity that it would need to be before it would trigger the need to go to a 4-lane section. So we looked at what would happen in the immediate future, which would be to widen Independence Boulevard, keep River Road at 2 lanes. And then we looked at an intersection improvement at River Road of either a traffic signal or a roundabout.
Quick question, the 1%, I mean, I don't have an argument with that citywide, but in that area with River Lights, you still felt like that was a good number? I mean, because I would think that's got to be the fastest, growing at a much higher percentage than the rest of the city.
You mean as far as River Road? I think,
I mean, because of River Lights they're built, seems like they're,
it does, but
building every day.
the study that we did took into account all of that build out. We have the planned improvements in there, and it was accounted for in the traffic volumes.
I didn't see that part. Thank you.
So what we found when we looked at specifically the intersection of Independence Boulevard and River Road is you'll see the traffic signal option on the top and the roundabout option on the bottom. And this is in 2045. We typically look out more than 20 years when we're forecasting for these improvements. And what you'll see is that 2 of the areas with the longest queues are the westbound and northbound movements. And there's a significant improvement, a reduction in the queue length between the westbound queue of 489 feet for the traffic signal and the westbound of 114 feet in the westbound move with the roundabout. You see a similar reduction for the northbound movement in the AM peak of 316 to 36, as well as in the PM peaks. You see the same level of reduction between the westbound and the northbound movements. You also see, you're familiar with level of service analysis. Typically, we're designing for A, B, sometimes a C, but once you get into the D's and E's and F's, that's when you're really trying to make an improvement. The traffic signal in 2045 in the westbound direction is operating a level of service of D. So it's not an ideal condition. And as you can see in the roundabout analysis, we're primarily operating at levels of service A, B, and C. So when Kimley Horn came forward with the TIA for the Watermark development, they completed that in July of 2022. Those traffic counts were completed in May of 2022. And the analysis also included the known developments at the time in both quarters, as well as a 5% growth rate to get to the 2024 traffic volumes. And when we looked at it in 2024, we were looking specifically at the existing lane configurations on Independence Boulevard, and we looked at the existing lane configurations on River Road because no widening will take place between now and 2024. And we wanted to know, as soon as we put the improvement in place, short term, how is that going to handle the traffic volumes in this corridor? This is the existing conditions with the Watermark development in place, which shows that the westbound movement would operate at a level of service of F. And that's similar to what we're seeing right now, with significant queues in both the morning and the PM peak hours in the westbound direction. That's moving from Carolina Beach Road on Independence to make a left onto River Road. And that's significantly what's driving that level of service F. So then we looked at what the impacts of either a traffic signal or a roundabout at this location would provide. And it's important to recognize that regardless of whether a traffic signal or a roundabout goes in at this location, the northbound and southbound movements are going to see a delay that they didn't before. Currently, they're in a free-flow movement. If they're going north or south on River Road, there's no stop control. They're just free flow. So anything that we do at this intersection is going to impact them. However, what you will see is that the westbound and northbound queues, again, are much reduced with a roundabout instead of a traffic signal. It is important to recognize that a traffic signal would work at this location in 2024, but we're looking for a long-term solution at this intersection. We don't want to put in a traffic signal only to tear it out in the future because a roundabout is the preferred alternative. Excuse me. We also think it's important to recognize that this roundabout improvement is not the only intersection or corridor improvement that needs to be made in this area. Staff are actively looking for ways to fund the future widening of Independence Boulevard through grants, through phased improvements, and any other methods that we can find to fund the widening of that corridor. So on your screen right now is a concept design for the roundabout that has been proposed at Independence Boulevard and River Road. In the northbound direction, you can see that there's a designated slip lane right turn, which allows that heavy northbound volume on River Road to make the turn onto Independence Boulevard without entering the roundabout. It does yield to the roundabout, so there will be gaps created in traffic as those users of that exit ramp wait for a clear opening in the roundabout. It includes crosswalks, sidewalks, and a multi-use path crossing and connection on the southeast leg. Additionally, because we were going to be in this area with the roundabout improvement, the city would like to fund additional improvements beyond the scope of the roundabout, including curb and gutter and sidewalk from River Road to the first development to the east on Independence Boulevard, providing some pedestrian connectivity at that end of Independence Boulevard. This is a more zoomed in view of the concept plan, which shows a roundabout with a diameter of 110 feet. This is called the inscribed circle of the roundabout, a travel lane of 16 feet, and a truck apron of 17.5 feet. I think it's important to recognize that these roundabouts are designed for trucks to drive on that truck apron. Larger vehicles are supposed to use the truck apron. That's what it's there for. It allows them to maneuver the roundabout without getting stuck or blocking traffic. It has an intended purpose. So what we've done graphically on this slide is we have shown you, those are supposed to be little cars. This is what the queue would look like in 2024 in the AM peak with the roundabout concept. And it's a significant improvement over the current condition. This is the queue in the 2024 PM peak. If you remember, in some cases in its existing condition, that queue gets upwards of 30 cars, and we're down to a queue of about approximately 5 cars with a roundabout at this location. I have some simulations, and these are intended to be capturing at the same time on the left the traffic signal and on the right the roundabout, and it will simulate about mid-peak of 2024 AM peak hours. to show you what the difference between operations of the roundabout and the traffic signal are. Can you click those, guys? And while the queues are not long on the traffic signal option, what you can see is the roundabout continuously moves traffic without people having to stop. The queues on the traffic signal are not very long, but people do have to stop. While in the roundabout, you can see cars continuously moving through the intersection. All right, can we stop that one and go to the next one, please?
While we're looking at that, the other time when this came before us, one of the citizens said that people don't know how to go through the roundabout. Is there any statistics on, like, say, more accidents at roundabouts than there are at traffic lights?
There aren't statistics that there are more accidents. There are a lot of statistics that show that roundabout accidents are less severe because you don't have somebody potentially running a red light and getting that 90-degree crash with somebody that's entering on a green. Speeds are generally lower in a roundabout because they have to slow down for the deflection angle to enter the roundabout and then go around the circle. So crashes that occur are less severe. So what we're seeing now is we're seeing the PM peak hour simulation, and similar to the AM peak simulation, the traffic signal works, there is queuing, the roundabout definitely keeps traffic moving more continuously through the intersection, but the traffic signal does work at this location in 2024.
Well, I've seen roundabouts that have, they're like two-lane roundabouts. When we get to that point, the trigger point to do the 4-lane on River Road, will this have to be, it'll stay the same? Okay.
My understanding is that what would need to be added in 2045 is the similar way that we have a slip lane on the northbound right turn movement to Independence Boulevard. We would have a similar slip lane that would take traffic that's heading west on Independence to go north on River Road. Anything you need to add there? No. Okay. So it doesn't go to a full dual lane roundabout, it simply gets an additional slip lane in the northbound direction.
Thank you.
And we have located the center median of this roundabout so that it works with both the existing 2-lane configuration and that future configuration as well. So now we're going to look at the 2045 simulations. And this is where you start to see the queues for the traffic signals starting to lengthen out, whereas the queues for the roundabout stay relatively short. And now we can look at the PM peak. And you can see the queue for the traffic signal in the PM peak starts to build back to the riverfront place connection. So based on the engineering analysis performed both by Michael Baker and by Kimley Horn, the roundabout is the preferred recommended improvement at this intersection in both the short term and the long term. The next slide I want to get into is a little bit on turning movements through the intersection. So these are what are called auto turn templates, and they are templates of what vehicles look like as they move through an intersection. They're based on truck traffic movements. And what you're seeing on here is a WB62, which is a very large tractor trailer. It's a tractor trailer that you would typically see on an interstate. But because of the proximity to the port and the ongoing construction and river lights, we felt it was important to demonstrate that a WB62 could make its way through the intersection. Typically, you're going to see things more like box trucks, single unit trucks, delivery vehicles, but we did want to demonstrate that this could happen. They're designed to use the truck apron, and you can see that the truck apron is being heavily used by the movements on this auto turn configuration. And the detailed design will make sure that vehicles can move safely through the intersection. This is concept plan level only. So these are just some additional auto turn templates of trucks moving through the intersection in the other directions. And here's another graphic showing how trucks are intended to use the splitter islands in the truck apron. We have a roundabout that NCDOT put together.
A roundabout can be intimidating the first time you approach one, but they are designed to be safer and more efficient than traditional intersections with stop signs and traffic signals because they keep traffic moving. By following a few simple rules, drivers, pedestrians, and bicyclists can all navigate a roundabout safely. When you approach a roundabout, slow down, watch for pedestrians, and look to your left for oncoming traffic. As you near the yield sign and dash yield line, yield to the traffic already in the roundabout. Everyone using the roundabout moves in a counterclockwise direction, and drivers already in the roundabout do not yield to the vehicles approaching the circular intersection. Once you see a gap in traffic, enter the circle and proceed to your exit. If there is no traffic in the roundabout, you may enter without yielding. Once inside, stay in the same lane, obey all signs, look for pedestrians, and use your turn signal before you exit. NCDOT builds two types of roundabouts, single lane and multi-lane. Once inside a single lane roundabout, simply exit at the desired street. When approaching a multi-lane roundabout, observe signs and pick the appropriate lane before entering. Remember to give larger trucks and buses extra room. Never enter the roundabout while an emergency vehicle using lights and sirens is passing through. If you are already in the roundabout, exit as soon as possible, then pull to the right to let the emergency vehicle pass. Bicyclists navigate roundabouts in a similar manner as vehicles and should stay in the middle of their chosen lane. Drivers should not pass a bicycle in a roundabout, and they must yield to bicyclists already in the roundabout. Drivers also yield to any pedestrians using the crosswalk of a roundabout. As more roundabouts are constructed across the state, knowing how to use them will help keep North Carolina moving.
And if you notice in that last roundabout, you could clearly see the truck pavement markings going across that apron. The next slide is going to go into a little bit of roundabout safety. Conflict points, both vehicular and pedestrian, are significantly reduced through the use of a roundabout versus a traditional four-way intersection. Vehicle conflicts are reduced from 32 to 8, and pedestrian conflicts are reduced from 24 to 8. Pedestrians at roundabouts are crossing only one direction of traffic at a time. So they only have to look in one direction to see if it's clear. They get to the refuge island, the splitter island, and then they look in the opposite direction. The vehicle can see them, and they can see the vehicle coming before they cross that next leg of the roundabout. And some of the statistics on roundabout reduce crash severity. Modern roundabouts reduce severe crashes by about 80%, and reduce all crashes by 35 to 47%.
A roundabout collision is more of a glancing blow.
That's
versus-
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Severe crashes, right angle, left turn, and head-on collisions are unlikely unless somebody is not following the roundabout. And you have lower speeds and the angles of the crashes. Here's just some more information about the educational roundabout benefits and education. Some of the stuff we've already touched on as far as the crash severities, the use of the truck apron, but it also goes into some of the life cycle costs and the environmental benefits of roundabouts. If the power goes out, the roundabout still functions. We don't need to have a generator. We don't have to have somebody fueling that generator. There's fewer idling cars at an intersection. And all of the cues and the simulations that we looked at today were for the AM peak and the PM peak. During the rest of the day, those volumes are significantly lower. So you would have a lot of cars stopped at a red light with no opposing traffic, where with the roundabout, they could just continue to move through the intersection. And there are a lot of instructional videos, flyers, brochures out there, and we can work with the communications department to get some more information out about how to use roundabouts, make sure that they're properly signed, properly striped. And I've got one last video from the FHWA we'll share with you, and then I'll open it for questions.
If you travel around the United States, there's a good chance you've gone through a modern roundabout recently. They're saving lives on our nation's roads because they reduce severe crashes at intersections by an average of 80%. But do you know the rules of the roundabout? The rules are pretty simple and easy to remember. Slow down, look around, and be ready to yield. When you approach a roundabout, slow down. Going slower gives you more time to make decisions, and you'll be ready to yield to other road users. Next, look around. If there's more than one lane leading to the roundabout, you'll need to choose the proper lane for where you want to go after the roundabout. Take note of the signs and markings to help you select your lane. Like most other intersections, use the left lane to go left, the right lane to go right, and either lane to go straight through, unless otherwise indicated. Keep looking around and check the crosswalks to see if anyone is waiting to cross or is already crossing. Be ready to stop and let them safely finish. When the crosswalk is clear, look around for traffic already in the roundabout. Then, be ready to yield. You must yield to traffic in all lanes of the roundabout, not just the lane closest to you. Remember, yielding means letting others go first and stopping when necessary. Enter when there's a comfortable gap. Remember to go slow and stay in your lane. Don't turn left from the right lane, and don't turn right from the left lane. If you see any large vehicles like trucks or buses, give them space and avoid driving next to them inside the roundabout. As you leave the roundabout, follow the pavement markings to stay in the correct lane. Look around one more time for anyone in the crosswalk and be ready to yield to them as you exit. That's it. So next time you're at a roundabout, make sure to follow these simple rules. Slow down, look around, be ready to yield.
So that's the presentation that we prepared for you. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
It's anticipated to be built in '24?
So we are currently in discussions with two developers, River Lights and Watermark. We've got a concept plan for the roundabout. It would need to go through TRC review in conjunction with their development and be constructed with their project. I would say a year to 18 months from the time their project is approved. And I'm not sure what that timeline exactly is for their approval.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Denise, on the traffic that's coming from the south, going through River Lights, how much of that traffic, when it gets up to Independence, goes north? And how much of it goes up Independence toward Carolina Beach Road? How much of it goes toward the port? How much of it goes to the right up Independence?
I don't have an exact
analysis on that?
figure for you, Dennis. 50%? Dennis is saying about 50% turns right, and the rest goes north.
Interesting. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Ms. Anderson.
You mentioned project getting approved. What project are you referring to? Are you talking about TRC piece of it? Like
Yes. So
talking about
anything,
for Watermark?
Watermark. Anything that had come in for approval during the period of time that we were completing the study. So there were some developments along Independence Boulevard that were going through the review process at the time. Those traffic volumes were accounted for in the improvement. Anything that has come in for approval after the study is intended to be accounted for in that growth factor that we included in both studies.
But I was talking about when you had made the statement about construction.
Oh, yes, that was for the Watermark development. As the roundabout construction would be done in conjunction with the Watermark construction and would be part of their TRC approval process, the review and design of the roundabout.
Okay, thank you.
Denise, when we do, like, let's say, for example, when Independence Boulevard became, developing out from Carolina Beach Road down to River Road, and the first person who comes along that generates more than 100 trips has to do a TIA, okay? And then the next person, it may not even be approved yet, but the next person, developer that comes along and is going to be required to do a TIA, does the first TIA take into consideration potential rezonings that can generate, like going from R15 to multifamily, medium, or further south?
I'm going to let Dennis or
Okay.
Brian take this one.
I guess what my question is, when you look at a strip that's going to be developed, there's a cumulative effect of all the TIAs that are being done, but when it comes before us, that TIA is specific to that site.
It's based on the known development that is going to occur. It's not taken into account of what may occur. So any development that has been previously approved along, say, Independence Boulevard will be included in the next TIA, but we're not.
With trip generations?
The volume from the previously approved TIA will be included as background traffic in a current TIA.
Okay. So what may come later is not.
Correct.
But when that property becomes developable and the TIA is performed, it has to take into consideration everything that came before it?
Anything that was previously approved, yes. And not yet constructed, so to speak, you know.
And how does it affect that, the last guy in the line? How does it affect him?
They probably accumulate the most traffic. So it depends on the construction schedule, I suppose. So if you have a TIA that was approved 5 years ago and it's constructed, that's actually real traffic now. So when they do their traffic count, it's included in the background traffic, and they're not penalized in any way from what's already out there.
Do we see, is that a statistic that we see, background traffic? I don't recall seeing that.
It's in TIAs. Typically what we show are the existing traffic when they actually collect the data. Then they add any previously approved TIAs as background traffic. Okay. And then they add the traffic that they're going to include to the roadway.
But that would only include, since we're talking about Independence Boulevard, that would only include Independence Boulevard. It wouldn't include anything that's occurring in River Lights or River Lights. I mean, that's the only one along there that's really developing. Or anything that's happening, on the south side. You were referring to traffic coming from the county. It's the unincorporated area that it's coming in from. And that's developing out at a fairly rapid pace. Are those, I know that's kind of satellite in distance, but is that considered as well, Dennis?
It partially. We select study intersections in a TIA. So if any single development comes in, we're going to say you'll likely affect this intersection and this intersection in close proximity to the development. We can't keep going, well, if they turn left here, then they're going to, so at some point it filters down. But I was going to go somewhere with that. I think Mr. Anderson mentioned the percent increase in volume. We kind of take account to residual traffic in the area through the anticipated growth rate. 1% was used in the Michael Baker study because it included all of the river lights if it were to build out. In the Kimley Horn study, it was a much shorter time period, and we didn't include river lights in that TIA because it was so short, but we included a 5% growth rate. So we kind of account for the residual of the traffic in the area through the growth rates.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want to say to you guys that that was a great presentation, and I hope that it's just a matter of education, really, and I hope we'll put some of that, maybe that last thing on GOTV and try to keep educating people about how it works. And I don't know, it might be a good idea to try to send some of this, or you've already spoken, I think, with the River Lights people, but I think it's just a matter of education. Once people understand it, it'll be quite the improvement. So thank you very much. It was a great presentation.
Mr. Mayor, that's all we have for you this morning. We'll see you this evening, 6:30.
6:30 it is. Okay, thank you. With that, we stand adjourned.